The girl is a sleep aid blogger. After successfully hypnotizing herself, she unexpectedly travels into the body of a handmaiden responsible for attending to the emperor at night. In the day-to-day routine of serving him, can she find her way back home? The girl puts on gorgeous earrings and exquisite makeup. Today, the girl has dressed up as her favorite female protagonist from a novel. She is very pleased with it. Then, the girl prepares to start her live stream. The girl's name is Shun Qingya, and she is a sleep aid streamer who runs her own channel. The character she is cosplaying today is the villainous version of the female lead from this novel's cover. Her livestream content is reading the book to her audience. Shun Qingya slowly begins to speak, saying in a delicate and gentle tone, "At that time, I had no idea what kind of person he was or what was on his mind. His name was Carl. He was the 5th emperor of the Mars Empire, his full name being Carlos Mars. And he had a secret that his wife Luna de Frank, knew nothing about. He was constantly tormented by insomnia. No matter what medicine or magic was used, nothing could cure his insomnia. The solution he chose was to summon people to serve him in bed until he was utterly exhausted. But the one serving him in bed was not me. I don't know if Carl was exhausted, but the streamer seemed to be on the verge of exhaustion herself. After reading just a short passage, the streamer felt dizzy, as if she would fall asleep any second. The audience exclaimed that the streamer was a human lullaby, even hypnotizing herself. But she couldn't do that while working. So, Shun Qingya shook her head, trying to wake herself up a bit. But before long, her eyes began to glaze over. She didn't know why she was so sleepy today. The next second, her world started spinning, until she closed her eyes. But it wasn't long before Shun Qingya's consciousness slowly returned, and she opened her eyes. Just as she was apologizing to her audience for her negligence, she felt something was wrong. She found herself being held up by 2 men dressed as soldiers. This strange scene made her panic. She quickly screamed and struggled, telling the soldiers to let her go. But the next second, a soldier covered her mouth, telling her to be quiet. Indeed, another girl was dragged out beside her. She couldn't understand the current situation at all. She was clearly live streaming just a moment ago. She couldn't help but wonder, was she dreaming? Soon, the soldiers brought them to a door. The handmaiden at the door seemed to recognize her, but called her Miss Sophia. She also said that today was their first time serving, so she needed to explain some rules. In short, without His Highness's permission, you are not to make a sound, not to make any movements, and to unconditionally obey His Majesty's commands. Shun Qingya was completely confused. Who the hell is Sophia? And who is His Highness? Serving in bed. What kind of niche vocabulary is that? Then, the handmaiden handed Shun Qingya an object, indicating that if anything went wrong with His Majesty, she should use it immediately. Marquis Rhodes would arrive at once. Then the large doors slowly opened, and the two were sent into the room. So noisy. At that moment, a vase was thrown at the two of them. The broken glass scratched Shun Qingya's face, and a man appeared before her. Isn't this the tyrant of a 10-league glance? Carlos Mars? The one known to readers as the Psycho Butcher, the scum of humanity. Carl, I'm doomed. Although Carl's actions were incredibly cliché, the author still gave him an extremely gorgeous appearance. No matter how much of a scumbag Carl was, it couldn't change the fact that he was handsome. It was a beauty that no one in the world could possibly describe. Only then did Shun Qingya realize that she seemed to have transmigrated, but she recalled the passage she had read just minutes ago. Every night, Carl would have ladies whose names he didn't even know serve him. If I had to transmigrate into a book, I should have become the female lead, right? Why did I become a nameless side character who serves him in bed? Just then, Carl looked at Anne, who was crying incessantly beside her. Carl was extremely annoyed by the continuous sobbing, which irritated him. But the fiercer he was, the louder Anne cried. Carl yanked her up directly and was terrified and begged for mercy. But hearing this, Carl grew even more furious. She clearly entered the palace to depend on him, someone trying to make a living, yet she won't listen obediently. He then raised his hand to give a slap. Stop! Shun Qingya couldn't stand such behavior. Her hand moved faster than her brain and grabbed Carl's raised hand. But when she came to her senses, she realized she must be crazy. I need to run away now. Carl, however, became interested in this audacious girl. You dare tell me to stop? Who do you think you're talking to? I see you're tired of living. As Carl kept approaching, Shun Qingya had no choice but to apologize and tactically retreat. But soon she reached the edge of the bed, bumped into it, and fell onto the bed. Isn't this the end? I've served myself up on a platter. But then she remembered the alarm device the handmaiden had given her. But obviously, Carl wouldn't give her the chance. He then gestured for her to stop her pointless struggles. Staring at the beastly body drawing near, Shun Qingya was in despair. She could only cry out, "I'm sorry, Your Highness." Carl froze and stopped his movements. Carl suddenly asked, "Why did you come here?" Seeing that Carl was suddenly willing to listen to her, Shun Qingya thought she had moved him. So she began to fluently weave a story, just as if she were live streaming, her tone comfortable and gentle. But Carl just watched her without any reaction, yet told her to continue. Shun Qingya had no choice but to continue making up her story. But as she spoke, it wasn't long before Carl collapsed. His heavy body fell on top of Shun Qingya. Shun Qingya didn't dare make a sound. Didn't they say Carl had severe insomnia? He actually fell asleep just like that. However, Shun Qingya just thought that Carl was really heavy. She was helpless in the current situation, not daring to make a sound, let alone move. But gazing at the exquisite face so close to her, Shun Qingya couldn't help but swallow. She even started fantasizing about certain scenarios. But she quickly came to her senses. I must be crazy. I know what a trashy tyrant Carl is. Although he's so irritable and short-tempered because of his insomnia, killing handmaidens just because he can't sleep, you're truly trash. Maybe I should just escape while he's asleep. As Shun Qingya thought this, Carl happened to turn over. Good chance, now's the time. But the next second, she was held tightly by Carl. Don't go. Don't leave me. Unable to move, Shun Qingya could only pray continuously, hoping she would wake up back in her own reality. Early the next morning, a man holding a staff was slowly walking towards Carl's bedchamber. And this person was Marquis Rhodes, whom the handmaiden had mentioned earlier. The Marquis took out the gem that was supposed to save the handmaidens. It absolutely cannot be discovered, the Marquis thought to himself. Suddenly one day, the Emperor developed strange symptoms. From then on, the Emperor was no longer his former self and became a cruel person. As a result, the handmaidens who serve His Majesty at night were successively injured. But the Emperor himself was not aware of his own problem. But strangely, it seemed nothing had happened today. Then, the Marquis pushed open the door. But the scene before him shocked the Marquis. The Emperor was actually sleeping peacefully while holding a handmaiden. How could this be? The sound also woke the two sleeping people. Their eyes met. Because he was just too handsome, Shun Qingya couldn't help but close her eyes. But the next second, she was kicked off the bed. She glared at Carl. Generally speaking, in this situation, shouldn't she be the one screaming and pushing him away? The Marquis couldn't help but ask what on earth was going on, and, concerned, checked on Shun Qingya, although she called her Sophia. Just then, Carl grabbed a blanket and kicked it onto Shun Qingya. As a result, the next second, Carl pointed towards the door and told everyone to get out. Helpless, the old Marquis had no choice but to push the two girls out. Leaving Carl's bedchamber, the Marquis took the handmaidens to his own room. Because they didn't call for the Marquis yesterday, he had thought last night passed peacefully. He didn't expect something like this to happen. Then, the Marquis saw that Shun Qingya's face was cut. The Marquis cast a spell, and soon the wound on her face was healed. The Marquis stated that His Majesty must never see them injured, which is why he gave them the magic tool. Only then did Shun Qingya realize that the pink stone was actually a magic tool, and also thank Sophia. Then she asked Shun Qingya, "Did you really sleep with His Majesty last night?" Shun Qingya could only admit that although they slept together, she was fine. The two were instantly shocked. It was then that Shun Qingya remembered to ask, by the way, "Old man, who are you?" Meanwhile, with the Emperor, he was trying to recall everything that happened last night, but he couldn't remember anything. It seemed he had lost his memory again. Carl had been feeling strange lately. He would be awake, but couldn't remember what he had done, especially at night. His memories were often a complete blank. He had thought it was a side effect of his insomnia. But then, the image of that girl appeared in his mind. He suddenly felt a chill and stood up from the bed. It was then he realized his head didn't hurt. His back wasn't sore. It was simply incredible. His body didn't ache at all. It even felt light. For the 3 years since his ascension, he had been plagued by insomnia, sleeping at most 2 hours a week. Even if he managed to fall asleep, he would wake up with his whole body feeling weak and sore. However, today Carl felt so refreshed. Feeling invigorated all over, Carl felt like the whole world had brightened up. He hadn't felt such a refreshing morning in years, but he soon realized something was wrong. What was he doing? He almost let the entire empire know that His Majesty had slept soundly through the night. He couldn't do that. Not yet. He began to wonder what on earth had happened to him. What? He suddenly had a thought. Could it be because of that woman who slept with him? But he quickly dismissed the idea. This was an insomnia that all the doctors and mages couldn't cure. How could it be cured by sleeping with a woman for one night? But it was also true that this was the first good night's sleep he'd had in 3 years. What if it really was thanks to that woman? In the afternoon, the Marquis came to the Emperor's door, seeking an audience. Seeing the Emperor ignore him, he was about to physically open the door. Fortunately, in the end, Carl opened the door amidst an angry roar. And the Marquis's first words upon entering were, "You're not thinking of making that person the Empress, are you?" Hearing this, Carl's face immediately darkened. "What nonsense are you spouting? Your Majesty, it's no use even if you try to hide it. Didn't you two share a bed last night? If that handmaiden gets pregnant because of this, things will get troublesome." But the Marquis considerately added that he had already thought of a solution for His Majesty, who knew Carl would play an unexpected card. "Then kick her out. Didn't you say things could get troublesome? Then just kick her out." Hearing this, the Marquis was dumbfounded. He could only advise the Emperor 3 times that doing so was too extreme. You have to give people a way to live, right? Facing this Marquis who was playing who knows what kind of trick, Carl appeared very angry. But he still sat down. Seeing His Majesty remain silent, the Marquis began, "No, let's just kick her out." Who knew that the next second, Carl would speak, telling the Marquis to bring the person to his bedroom immediately. The Marquis was dumbfounded. Meanwhile, with Shun Qingya, she was sorting through the information she had gathered in this world. The old man's name was Rhodes, the Emperor's guardian mage, and also the most powerful mage in the Empire. But perhaps because he wasn't a major character, there was no detailed description of him in the book. Just from the fact that he would save the handmaidens, Shun Qingya's impression of him was quite good. Shun Qingya turned to look at herself in the mirror. She realized that the character she had transmigrated into, Sophia, was so beautiful. Then, she found a pocket watch and a letter in the desk. The photo in the pocket watch should be Sophia's mother. But the letter was a very vicious one, a letter of disownment. In short, it told Sophia to be a mistress and never come home again because she was worthless. Shun Qingya suddenly felt despair because she remembered that Sophia dies at the hands of the tyrant. The female lead Luna's older sister. The female lead's missing sister in the novel wasn't actually missing. Instead, she was offered to the tyrant by her father, which is what got her killed. Shun Qingya didn't want to die here. To prevent this, she began to review the plot from the beginning. When Carl was 8, the Empress of the Empire, Carl's mother, died of illness. After he came of age, his father, the Emperor, also passed away from an unknown malignant disease. The subsequent Empress and his older brother, Crown Prince Matthias, also passed away one after another. After that, Carl ascended to the throne and suddenly became a tyrant. Shun Qingya decided to escape first and plan later. Just then, guards suddenly burst in, saying His Majesty was looking for Sophia and that she had to go with them. Shun Qingya was completely panicked. She didn't know what this tyrant was going to do to her. Before long, she was brought before Carl. Carl asked her what her name was. She could only answer that her name was Sophia. Carl slowly spoke, "Very good. You have my permission." "What the hell? What nonsense are you talking, tyrant? This is a royal command. I order you to make me fall asleep again. If you fail to make me sleep, I will send you to the guillotine." After speaking, Carl began to undress. Shun Qingya was very nervous. She thought Carl was going to sleep with her. Seeing Sophia still standing there in a daze, Carl pulled her over, pushed her onto the bed, and told her to hurry up and start. Sophia thought of something she was proud of and very good at, and told Carl to lie down. Fortunately, Carl obeyed. She then began to narrate a story she had once won an award for. Then, the girl shed scalding tears. The shard of mirror stuck in the boy's heart, melted like a snowflake in the girl's tears. Soon, Carl fell into a deep sleep. Gazing at Carl's face as he slept, Sophia couldn't help but sigh. He looks like a child when he's asleep. If it weren't for the fact that he's a tyrant, he'd be a genius. But now is not the time to think about this. She had to escape. But the balcony was too high, and there were knights guarding outside, so she chose to go through the main door. But upon opening the door, she found the Marquis eavesdropping. Shun Qingya began to wonder what they were doing here. The Marquis flusteredly explained that he was worried Sophia might get hurt, so he rushed over. He then gave Sophia another red gemstone and told her that if anything happened, she could use it to ask for his help. Sophia hesitantly took the gemstone. She was then pushed and escorted back to her dormitory by the Marquis. At this moment, Sophia sensed something. The Marquis didn't come just because he was worried about a handmaiden. In the handmaidens' dining hall of the Mars Palace, the handmaidens were gossiping behind their backs. The emperor hadn't kicked out the handmaiden who served him before. He even personally summoned her today. And the source of all these rumors was this seemingly innocent woman, Rovi. Meanwhile, Carl had also woken up. He found that he felt no discomfort at all. His head didn't hurt. It seemed that woman could really make him sleep. But only then did he realize he had taken off his clothes in front of her again. After tidying up his appearance, Carl was in a great mood and decided to go out for some fresh air. Just then, he ran into the Marquis. The Marquis thought he hadn't slept and became a little flustered. But Carl said he slept very well, and he was now certain that this woman was the only one who could make him sleep. The Marquis became curious about what method Sophia had used. Carl was too embarrassed to say. He couldn't just say she told him a story, could he? Sophia, on the other hand, felt a bit hopeless. The handmaidens used to take turns serving, but now it seemed she was being targeted. If this continued, she would die at Carl's hands sooner or later. Just then, a woman reminded her to be careful. It would be troublesome if she fell from the window. This woman was Rovi. Sophia was curious how Rovi knew her. Rovi said that there was probably no one now who didn't know the first new handmaiden to capture His Majesty's heart. Miss Sophia. Hearing this, Sophia was stunned. You mean his heart to dislike or kill me, right? Rovi then told Sophia not to mind the rumors and took her leave. What a two-faced schemer. But right after, the Marquis sought out Sophia again. He even prepared snacks for her. It turned out he hoped Sophia could lull His Majesty to sleep every night from now on. He said His Majesty had already told him that Sophia had a mysterious power. He also offered a generous condition of 500 gold coins. Hearing this number, Sophia was shocked. This was her income for being a blogger for 2 years. Even if she was a slave to capitalism, she wouldn't be so easily fooled. Right now, in an entire empire, she was the only one who could make His Majesty sleep. And the Marquis also seemed afraid that Sophia would not accept this task. But Sophia still refused, because she knew that only by doing so would she have a chance to escape. However, the next second, the Marquis raised his staff, warning Sophia that this was a royal command. But even so, Sophia still firmly refused. Hearing this, the Marquis was at a loss. He couldn't possibly kill the only person in the world who could make the emperor sleep. He could only say that he would give Sophia time to consider. But if Sophia insisted on refusing, he would force her to submit. After leaving the Marquis's room, Sophia couldn't be bothered with it anymore and went straight to the dining hall to eat. But there, she was shunned by the other handmaidens, who called her shameless. Sophia didn't understand. It was her first time meeting them. Why was there so much hostility? Perhaps it was because she had been in the emperor's bedroom for the past 2 nights. Sophia didn't back down at all. She said, "If you have a problem, say it to my face. What's the point of whispering behind my back?" But this was met with even fiercer ridicule. With no power or influence, Sophia, being ostracized like this and not wanting to be bothered anymore, could only warn everyone not to be too rude, especially to the future empress. The Marquis, meanwhile, went to find Carl again. He could see that Carl seemed to be sleepless again. Carl, in turn, was curious why he had come looking for him so early in the morning. What could be so urgent? The Marquis told Carl that rumors about Sophia had already spread throughout the imperial palace. They said Sophia had spent the night with His Majesty and was about to become the empress. And it seemed the rumor had come from her own mouth. Carl immediately let out a cold laugh. He hadn't expected Sophia to have such ambitions. But Carl couldn't possibly give up this person who could help him sleep. Yet, he couldn't make Sophia the empress either. Not even an imperial consort. Right now, he couldn't enter into a marriage alliance with any family. Meanwhile, Sophia saw that the rumors were running rampant. The emperor might actually kill her. She decided she had to escape before being caught. But who knew that in the next second, she would be captured? The emperor had summoned Sophia again. "Your Majesty, Your Majesty." It was that damned Your Majesty again. This time, Carl didn't summon her to the bedroom, but to his office. and the first thing he said was to advise Sophia to know her place. You've only spent 2 nights in my bedroom. Don't think you can get arrogant because of that. I will never let you become the Empress. The only thing I permit you to do is lull me to sleep. So that was it. Carl had called Sophia over just to put her in her place. But Sophia had only said those things to avoid conflict with the other maids. So she spoke up, with all due respect, Your Majesty seems to have some misunderstanding about me. A misunderstanding? You don't seem to be afraid. The tyrant who killed the Empress and the Crown Prince to ascend the throne, am holding your neck right now. But you didn't kill them, did you, Your Majesty? Carl fell silent. I knew it. Your Majesty is not the kind of person who would do such a thing. I have no interest in the position of Empress. I will also keep to my place. I will absolutely keep my word. Seeing this, Carl couldn't say much more and dismissed Sophia. Coming to his senses, Carl realized Sophia seemed different from what he had heard. Could that old man have misheard? Carl's mind felt like a mess. He increasingly couldn't understand what that woman was thinking. It was clearly a good opportunity for her too. But why would she refuse it? Carl was conflicted. She had allowed him to touch her before and was happy to lull him to sleep. Why the sudden change in attitude? And she even said things like, I knew Your Majesty is not the kind of person who would do such a thing. After leaving Carl's office, Sophia decided to hurry back to her room and grab her bag. But just then, a guard suddenly called out to Sophia. Sophia ran left and right. She finally made it back to her room and grabbed her backpack. She had to escape this place before everyone finished their meal. But as she ran, she encountered soldiers again. She didn't want to be caught here, so she looked out the window. She felt it wasn't actually that high, and she couldn't delay any longer. The next second, she leaped down. But the situation was not what she had imagined. Why is it so high? Just then, a figure appeared and caught Sophia. At the same time, the Marquis used magic to protect the two of them. By the time they landed, Sophia had already fainted. Only then did Carl realize how soft she was. Clearly, every time I've touched a woman, I've only felt disgusted. Just then, Sophia also regained consciousness. But upon discovering she was being held by Carl, she shoved him away. Only then did Carl coldly question her. Why did you jump from there? Gazing at this cold yet handsome face, Sophia couldn't help but straighten his appearance. Only then did she bow and thank Carl. Carl replied, If you really want to thank me, then work for me. At this moment, the Marquis also rushed over. He unleashed a tirade on Sophia, scolding her for doing such a thing. But Carl stopped the Marquis, shouting. He even told Sophia that from now on, without his permission, she was not allowed to die. Absolutely not. Sophia looked bewildered. Why did the Emperor save her? And why tell me not to die? He will eventually kill me, Luna's older sister, anyway. Could it really be because I can cure his insomnia? From that day on, Sophia was placed under strict surveillance. Whether she was eating, working, or even go to the bathroom, the other maids learned that His Majesty had dispatched soldiers to protect Sophia. Rumor had it that she was the young lady most likely to become the Empress. Even and deliberately avoided Sophia. Staring at this window, Carl became more and more confused. Why did Sophia jump from here? Was it because of me? If so, why did she do those things? I really don't understand women. Not long after, Sophia found Carl again. She handed something to Carl. It turned out that to repay him for saving her life, she had drawn up a contract. She promised to help Carl treat his insomnia. It roughly stated that the healer would actively resolve the patient's insomnia, and the patient would actively cooperate. After the patient is cured, the healer must be sent out of the imperial palace. The entire process requires a payment of 250 gold coins. Because she was thinking of repaying him for saving her life, Sophia cut the fee in half. She claimed, after all, the treatment requires some time and energy. Hearing that it would take time and energy, the Marquis indeed overthought things. In addition, there was a breach of contract clause. If Sophia breached the contract, she would have to give up her life. If Carl breached it, he would have to make Sophia the Empress. These were the things they both resisted the most. But Carl was becoming even more clueless about what Sophia truly wanted. However, for Carl, as long as his insomnia could be cured, there was nothing to hesitate about. Meanwhile, and was blaming herself. Although she liked Sophia very much, she was afraid of getting too close to her. She wanted to leave the palace alive, so she tried her best not to be noticed by the Emperor. That evening, Sophia once again pushed open the door to Carl's room to conduct the treatment. But this time, she began to ask about the symptoms of Carl's insomnia, asking questions like how long he usually slept and around what time he woke up. This, however, greatly annoyed Carl. He wanted to get straight to the main event of her lulling him to sleep. Sophia immediately used the patient must actively cooperate with the treatment clause to suppress Carl's temper. After all, he didn't want to end up with an empress. Afterwards, amidst Sophia's gentle whispers, Carl once again fell into a deep sleep. However, Carl's delicate side profile while asleep never failed to amaze Sophia, no matter how many times she saw it. Meanwhile, the Marquis was feeling resentful. That girl was clearly planning to kill herself before. How could she be so neither humble nor arrogant now? But it was also thanks to her that His Majesty's insomnia was being treated. His own magic was second to none, yet a mere maid was better able to ease His Majesty's worries than he was. He was very resentful. The reason His Majesty saved Sophia was probably because he remembered what happened that day. No one in the palace knew how warm and brave Carl's heart was. Then, the Marquis felt relieved, because until Carl could sort out his thoughts, he probably wouldn't show that warm and brave side of himself. Just then, a guard found a necklace and handed it to the Marquis. He looked at the pattern on the necklace. He was utterly shocked. This is absolutely impossible. The Marquis thought to himself. Over with Carl. Having had a good night's sleep, he finally woke up. Everything that happened last night was still vivid in his mind. It was the first time he could remember the events of the previous night so clearly. But today his head started to hurt again. Because of the headache, his temper was also foul. That night, Sophia once again came to the Emperor's bedside. But today, Carl seemed to have changed his attitude again. And in his memory, on the first day, it was Sophia who had pounced on him. After hearing this, Sophia was furious. Was he feigning memory loss or just being shameless? After saying all this, he even beckoned Sophia to hurry over and lull him to sleep. The next day, and once again passed by Sophia without saying a word. In truth, she just didn't want to become too conspicuous. But by doing so, she felt she was no different from those who gossiped about Sophia behind her back every day. Just then, someone happened to be talking about Sophia seducing the Emperor, and immediately retorted, "Sophia? How could she possibly seduce His Majesty just to become Empress?" The quiet and timid, and even slapped the gossiping woman for this. At this moment, Sophia also heard the commotion and quickly pulled and away from there. After returning to the dormitory and finally apologized to Sophia. She had been avoiding Sophia all this time and felt extremely guilty. "I'm so sorry," because she wanted to leave the imperial palace alive. But she really couldn't stand those people's malicious rumors about Sophia. It wouldn't matter even if Sophia didn't forgive her. But Sophia knew and was a very kind person. She had never blamed Anne at all. The two of them reconciled. Carl was swirling his wine glass, waiting for his hypnotist to arrive. But Sophia snatched the red wine from Carl's hand and ordered him to stop drinking before bed from now on. Because with the way Carl drank, forget a good night's sleep, he would have a hangover and a headache the next day. Carl helplessly said that he would go to sleep after he finished the wine in his glass. But unexpectedly, Sophia drank the wine in one gulp. Carl had no choice but to obediently lie down on the bed and wait for Sophia to lull him to sleep. Perhaps because of the alcohol, it wasn't long before Carl once again fell into a baby-like sleep. As Sophia was about to return to her room, she felt the whole floor shaking. She thought it was an earthquake, but it was obvious she couldn't hold her liquor and was starting to stumble. The next morning, Sophia felt a splitting headache. She hadn't expected the red wine to have such a strong kick. And the Emperor drank such strong wine with every meal and would even have a bottle or two before bed. Just then, the Marquis found Sophia. He had come to return the pocket watch. He also asked Sophia if, after being in the palace for so long, she didn't need to go back and see her family. Sophia suddenly felt that this old Marquis was a good person. The Marquis was startled. He hadn't expected to give Sophia such a mistaken impression. Carl was eating. He subconsciously wanted to pick up his wine glass for a sip, but it was all that woman's fault. He couldn't drink red wine with his meals anymore, so he reached for the black tea beside him. On the third day after she stopped him from drinking, Sophia couldn't help but admire the Emperor a little. He was close to alcohol poisoning before, and now he had quit just like that. But today, Carl couldn't fall asleep no matter what, and he felt his heart beating very fast. Only then did Sophia discover a pile of teacups on the table. She immediately questioned Carl loudly. "Who told you to drink black tea like this?" Carl retorted. "Didn't you forbid me from drinking alcohol?" Carl's hands began to tremble. It turned out that trying to replace alcohol with black tea had given Carl caffeine poisoning, so there was no way Carl was going to sleep today. But Sophia still decided she would wait there until Carl fell asleep. The next day, Sophia decided to take a slower approach to weaning Carl off alcohol. Carl thought he could have 1 glass a day. Who knew Sophia would say 1 glass every 3 days? A dissatisfied Carl was about to protest, but Sophia's contract curse made him swallow his protest. That night, Sophia turned off the lights and spent a full 3 hours lulling Carl to sleep. But in his sleep, Carl suddenly started to toss and turn, biting his lip with a pained expression. Sophia didn't dare wake him because it would surely be difficult to get Carl back to sleep. So she started singing a lullaby. In his dream, Carl was calling out to Luna, "Why aren't you coming to save me?" He didn't want to die here. Just then, a melodious and beautiful singing voice drifted over, untying the ropes in Carl's dream. Carl listened to the song, mesmerized. It sounded like Mom's voice. In reality, he also shed tears. Seeing this scene, Sophia couldn't help but remember that Carl was also someone who had lost his parents. And Sophia had also lost her parents when she was young. Could it be that he couldn't bear the pain and became a tyrant because of this? Just then, Carl turned over, revealing his back and a large scar. Sophia was surprised. How could Carl have such a wound on his body? At this moment at the Fran estate, after learning that the Emperor had taken an interest in Sophia, Count Fran was very displeased. After all, sending an illegitimate daughter to the Emperor to warm his bed would be troublesome if word got out. He decided to resolve this matter. Meanwhile, the Marquis was about to wake His Majesty for the Harvest Festival meeting, but he found His Majesty already fully dressed and waiting for him. And he seemed to have become gentler as a person. 2 maids were gossiping behind their backs, but were stopped by a girl. And this girl was the one among the bed-warming maids most likely to become the Empress or an imperial consort, Eva, the youngest daughter of the Marquis Turin's family. But she was being overshadowed by Sophia from the countryside noble Fran family. It was impossible for her not to be in a bad mood. At the Harvest Festival Council, just as everyone thought, the Emperor would be absent as usual. He arrived, walking with an arrogant swagger. And as soon as he arrived, he put everyone in their place. But actually in this novel, the Harvest Festival is a symbol of tragedy and revenge. In the first part, Luna confessed her feelings to Carl on the night of the Harvest Festival and was rejected. And in the second part, to get revenge on Carl, Luna chose to dance with the kind second male lead. And at this moment, Sophia was picking out gems with a nervous heart. And she wasn't picking them for herself. Although they were usually responsible for serving the Emperor during the Harvest Festival, they also had to help the noble ladies of the palace with their makeup and grooming, as well as accompany them in conversation. When Sophia carefully selected a gemstone necklace for a noble lady, the lady thought the necklace seemed more suitable for Sophia. She also told her that during the Harvest Festival, there was a tradition of nobles and maids choosing accessories for each other. Just like that, Sophia inexplicably ended up wearing the necklace she had picked. She attended the Harvest Festival, but she was surprised to find that everyone was staring at her. Then, the noble lady beside her immediately changed her expression, accusing Sophia of wearing ruby jewelry on such a day. Don't you know that at the Harvest Festival, only royalty can wear ruby jewelry? Just then, Eva slowly walked out, chiming in with the noble lady to accuse Sophia, even calling the noble lady mother. Only then did Sophia realize she had been set up by the powerful. As the two of them accused her in concert, the young ladies from various families attending the festival also began to gossip about Sophia behind her back. But having done nothing wrong, Sophia was not afraid. It's not like she didn't have a mouth. Was she afraid of an argument? Just as she was about to take off the necklace and enter shrew mode, she was stopped by a figure from behind. And the person who stopped her was none other than Emperor Carl. Carl directly smashed a bottle of red wine and lightly sprinkled the wine on the noble lady's head. All because the noble lady said Sophia had won Carl's favor. But no woman could ever get even a hint of a good look from him, because Carl hated all the women in the world. But Sophia was different. She was a tool for Carl, and a very useful one at that. Much better than those who mock the pain of others. Afterwards, Carl actually took Sophia's hand and left the banquet hall. Afterwards, Carl took Sophia to a seat in the courtyard. He had never brought anyone here before, because this was Carl's secret base where he wanted to be alone. But today, he was finally not alone. Just then, Sophia suddenly saw a shooting star streak across the night sky and shouted excitedly. Sophia told Carl that if you make a wish on a shooting star, your wish will come true. Carl looked disdainful, but he did have a wish. But he was unwilling to tell Sophia, and his wish was to make it impossible for this woman to leave the imperial palace. And Sophia's wish was to successfully escape the imperial palace. Another shooting star streaked across the sky. Sophia exclaimed that it seemed heaven had heard their wishes. Early the next morning, the Marquis ran to question Carl. Because of his actions, this year's harvest festival had ended abruptly. Moreover, knowing that the woman was the Marquis's Turan, Carl still poured wine on her head. Facing the Marquis's incessant questioning, Carl said that he didn't care what others thought of him, but the Marquis, of all people, should believe in him. Carl stated that he would handle this matter. He wanted to have the Turan family's youngest daughter enter the palace. Afterwards, Carl also requested that 3 imperial mages be assigned to Sophia. In the subsequent meeting, before Carl could even announce its end, Marquis Turan, who was beside him, stated that the meeting could probably end here. Carl was furious. He hadn't even spoken, and the Marquis was already declaring the meeting over. Carl directly announced the stripping of Marquis Turan's position as ambassador, demoting him to a viscount. Marquis Turan questioned, "What is the meaning of this?" The ones who were insulted were Emperor Carl and his wife. That woman wearing a ruby necklace was simply audacious. And it was one thing for you to pour red wine on my wife and banish her from the palace. How can you still treat me this way? Carl just retorted faintly. Since when did our empire have such a law? Because of this absurd rule. That woman, who is my property, was harassed and insulted in various ways. Insulting my property is equivalent to insulting me. You'd better step down obediently. The fact that I haven't chopped off your head is already a sign of my magnanimity. With a single slash, he cut Turan's collar. Turan was immediately frightened and knelt on the ground. Carl knew very well how Turan had risen to power. He warned everyone that if anyone challenged the imperial authority again, he would show no mercy. But in his heart, Turan was deeply unconvinced. He would not let this go. The next day, as the two were about to go for a walk, they ran into the manipulative girl, Rovi. All the previous rumors had come from her. Yet now, she was telling Sophia not to be so wary of her. And she came to tell Sophia that Miss Torong had been expelled from the palace on the Emperor's orders. Furthermore, the Torong family was no longer of Marquis rank, but had been demoted to Count. Hearing this, Sophia felt a little panicked. She had unknowingly changed the plot. Sophia was curious why the woman would tell her these things. Rose said it was simply because they were in a similar plight, and she just wanted to help Sophia. She then took her leave, but Sophia's intuition told her that this woman must have some other motive. After Ro left, another group of maids came, shamelessly apologizing one after another, saying they had been utterly blinded by their desperation. Then they incessantly comforted Sophia. These people were the epitome of shamelessness. Fortunately, Sophia still had and by her side, but she also felt the difficulty of her current situation. Although she was grateful to Carl for saving her, he had also pushed her into the eye of the storm. At this moment, in a small city in the eastern part of the empire, Count Torong knocked on a door. He wanted to see someone, but the person on the other side told him that person was not here right now. He could pass on any message. After Torong left, that person appeared in the alley. He had heard what Torong said, but he had no intention of dealing with Torong because he no longer had any use. However, they heard Sophia's name. The man said with a smile, "I didn't expect her to be connected to the White Killer." Things were starting to get interesting. That night, Sophia, who came to lull Carl to sleep as usual, asked him a question about the matter of expelling the maids from the palace. The reason she asked was because she was afraid strange rumors would spread between His Majesty and her. But Carl didn't seem to care. Let there be rumors. Could it be that Sophia dislikes me so much she can't even tolerate rumors about us? Sophia had to explain that if she angered the nobles, her life might be in danger. She didn't want to die yet. Carl told her not to worry. Before his insomnia was cured, he wouldn't let Sophia die. Then he once again urged Sophia to hurry up and lull him to sleep. The next day, Carl woke up feeling clear-headed, but when Sophia asked how he felt, he just said it was so. But in reality, that wasn't what he wanted to say at all. That afternoon, Carl was restless while handling his official duties. He tilted his head to look out the window. There seemed to have just been a magical vibration. The space of the imperial palace and the space outside it are mutually distorted. Generally, looking through a window only reveals a view where distances are indistinguishable. But through the vibration of the magic enveloping the entire palace, the landscape can change in an instant. And what Carl saw in the window was, of all people, Sophia. In the afternoon, while Carl was practicing his swordsmanship, he inadvertently saw Sophia whispering with a knight. Only after returning to his room did Carl discover the reason Sophia was whispering with the knight. It was to have the knight deliver this letter to him. After learning that Sophia would be coming early today, Carl stood up and went out on horseback to find her. Sophia had picked some flowers and herbs for Carl. They were called lilacs. The fragrance of this flower can aid sleep. At a meeting 1 week after the autumn harvest festival ended, the ministers were all asking when he planned to appoint a new chamberlain to fill the vacancy. The head of the magician Shire family, Duke George Shire, asked Carl, "Is it true that you plan to make your favored Maid the Empress?" After that, the various ministers began to bombard him with all sorts of questions. 1111, the high-ranking noble factions of the imperial court were divided into two camps. Those were the conservative magician faction and the bloodline-based knight faction. A long time ago, when monsters that even the sword saint of that era could not defeat appeared in the world, it was the magicians who stepped forward and suppressed those monsters. But ever since then, the monsters have disappeared. As a result, the people's need for magicians became lower and lower. Eventually, an emperor who was not a magician ascended the throne. That emperor was Carl's grandfather, Marseille, the fourth emperor, and the magician faction, which wanted to revive the glory of the magicians, and the knight faction, which wanted to continue the glory of the knights, formed a rivalry. Just as the ministers were arguing endlessly, Carl shattered his wine glass. He couldn't give them the answer they wanted. Therefore, they would have to meet again at the next conference. Back in his office, Carl remembered Sophia's words. "Because I'm afraid strange rumors will spread between your majesty and me, I won't come near you anymore from now on. If I displease the nobles, I might lose my life at any moment. I don't want to die yet." Carl was considering that if this continued, not only that woman, but even he himself would be in danger. He then summoned the Marquis. They went to a jewelry store late at night, requesting something to be made. He also demanded the Marquis to have this gemstone made into a protective magical item, and he wanted it done by tomorrow. The next morning, Sophia received a gift. It was a formal dress from the emperor. She was also told to put on and go to Marseille Hall. Sophia then did as requested, put on the dress, and arrived at the door of the Great Hall. Inside, Carl was in a meeting. Inside, Carl announced that the position of chamberlain would remain vacant for the time being. The ministers broke into discussion, but Carl warned them not to forget that he was the emperor. Then, Carl issued a second imperial edict. Just then, Sophia walked in. The emperor appointed Sophia as the emperor's exclusive insomnia therapist. In recognition of her meritorious service in his treatment, she was granted a special knightly rank. The issuance of the edict caused a commotion. At this moment, Carl took out the newly made magical item and gave it to Sophia, stating that from now on, no one could insult Sophia. From now on, Sophia was no longer a maid, but a knight with an official title. Anyone who spoke slanderously of her and himself would be severely punished according to the law. Hearing this, Sophia was deeply moved. If Carl in the original story had been like this, she wouldn't have had to worry so much. After the meeting, the Marquis led Sophia to a room. Inside the room was a knight who had been waiting for a long time. From now on, he would be Sophia's guard. And this room was Sophia's room to offset the contract penalty. Moreover, it was His Majesty's order and must be accepted. Sophia couldn't understand why Carl did this, but at least she would be safer now. A boy stopped a girl. He told her to look at today's newspaper. The newspaper prominently featured Sophia, who had become the emperor's insomnia therapist. And Sophia was none other than the older sister of this girl, who was known by everyone at the academy. The next morning, Sophia arrived early at Carl's room. Carl was very pleased to see Sophia wearing the dress he had given her, and couldn't help but admire his own taste. But Sophia said bluntly that she wasn't wearing it for anyone's sake, but simply felt that dressing this way would prevent people from looking down on her. Carl was at a loss with this audacious woman who dared to talk back to the emperor. What surprised him even more was that Sophia actually wanted him to release the maids who had served him from the palace. In fact, Carl never wanted those women to serve him in the first place. The reason he had Sophia serve him was because, for some reason, he felt very comfortable being with her. The atmosphere suddenly became a little ambiguous. Sophia hadn't expected Carl to say such a thing. Sensing the atmosphere was off, Carl immediately explained that he just didn't see Sophia as a woman. Sophia thought that was for the best. Then, Sophia said that as long as he let them leave the palace, they would surely be just like her. Endlessly grateful to Carl. Hearing this, Carl's expression instantly darkened. Just like you. He began to wonder. Then, Sophia, are you my person? Sophia immediately stated that, of course, she was on Carl's side. She was Carl's therapist, after all. Hearing this, Carl's mood seemed to improve a lot. That night, Sophia came to Carl's room again to lull him to sleep. Within seconds, Carl fell into a deep sleep. But strangely, Sophia seemed to have entered that same state as the day of the live stream again. As she spoke, she once again lulled herself to sleep. Meanwhile, Carl had already started dreaming. In the dream, a voice kept putting him down, questioning if he really still thought there was anyone in this world on his side. His father, his mother, and the brother he trusted most. Perhaps they're the ones who hate you the most, Carl. Carl kept telling himself it was just a dream. The next second, he woke up with a jolt. Only then did he realize that Sophia, who was supposed to be lulling him to sleep, had fallen asleep beside him. Carl thought to himself that she would leave on her own when she woke up anyway. He just needed to go back to sleep. But then he thought of what Sophia had said that morning. Carl couldn't help but gaze at her slender figure. She looked so small. Was she really eating properly? At this thought, Carl couldn't fall back asleep. He simply sat up. He was at a bit of a loss. However, just as Sophia was about to slide off the bed, Carl reached out and caught her. Who knew that the sleeping Sophia would instinctively hug Carl back? The next day, Sophia woke up in Carl's bed. She saw Carl on the sofa and only then realized that she had fallen asleep in Carl's bed again. She quickly apologized and was about to make a run for it, but Carl stopped her. Since she had slept in his bed, he was going to make Sophia pay the price. And that price was for Sophia to bring him his breakfast and then eat it. This humble narrator would also like to have such an expensive price to pay, although she didn't know why Carl suddenly told her to eat his breakfast. But after Sophia tasted it, she couldn't be bothered to think about it. She went from chewing in small bites at the beginning to devouring it with gusto. However, Carl, who was sitting to the side, actually laughed out loud upon seeing Sophia like this. Sophia was also very surprised, because this was the first time she had seen Carl smile. He was kind of handsome. The next day, the Marquis came to the office to report on the investigation's progress, and also to ask for 2 days off. Carl knew that tomorrow was the anniversary of Rhodes's daughter's death, so he granted the Marquis's request. At that moment, the Marquis suddenly noticed that there was a residual magical afterimage on Carl. What Rhodes saw was an afterimage left only by very special and powerful magic. Perhaps that magician possessed an ability even more special than his own. It seemed the Marquis had one more thing to investigate. On this day, Sophia was about to change the flower vase in Carl's room when she met someone in the hallway. It was an old lady, and this kind old lady was actually Marquis Rhodes's wife. Sophia immediately became respectful. After all, the Marquis had taken good care of her. Just then, a guard reported that someone was here to see Sophia. However, when Sophia saw the visitor clearly, her body instinctively began to tremble. Only then did Sophia realize, could the person before her be Sophia's father, the one who sent her into the palace? And Sophia didn't know what the man before her had done to his own daughter to make her body so afraid of her father. The father said he wanted to talk with Sophia. At that moment, the Marquis's wife stepped forward. After exchanging a few pleasantries with Frank, she pulled Sophia away from there. The Marquis's face darkened, but out of respect for the Marquis's wife, he couldn't say much. Sophia was a little confused as to why the Marquis's wife had saved her. It turned out that the Marquis's wife had keenly observed Sophia's uncontrollable trembling. Although she didn't know what had happened to Sophia, the Marquis's wife couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Hearing this, Sophia was deeply moved. Afterwards, the two went before the Marquis. The Marquis's wife actually wanted to take Sophia home. The Marquis was a little unhappy because his wife seemed to have forgotten what day it was. But a single darling from his wife left the Marquis speechless. Even Sophia could see that in the Rhodes family, it seemed the old lady was the one in charge. And the reason the wife wanted Sophia to accompany her was that she felt this old man was too boring. She wanted Sophia to chat with her. And so, Sophia boarded the carriage. It was only then that Sophia realized something. Even if she ran away, she couldn't get out at all. There were magicians guarding the gate. Only when the magic in their hands lit up would the bridge outside the castle slowly rise from a seabed, forming a complete bridge. In other words, without a magician, an ordinary person had no way in or out. No wonder banquets were only held on special days. It was usually very difficult to see outsiders. The carriage slowly drove into the city. This was also the first time Sophia had come to a town in this world since she transmigrated. And Lady Rhodes also invited Sophia to visit their home often. Arriving at the Marquis's residence, Sophia discovered that the lady truly loved the color pink. It was then that the Marquis's wife introduced herself. Her name was Meryl, and after Sophia introduced herself, Meryl realized that Sophia was the famous therapist from the palace recently. But even so, Meryl still wanted to call Sophia by her first name. Sophia wanted to call Lady Meryl Grandma Meryl. Gaining a granddaughter out of the blue, Meryl gladly accepted. Besides, ever since their son passed away, only the two of them, an old couple, were left in the house. She was overjoyed to have a new granddaughter. Meanwhile, Rhodes was staring off in the direction of the residence, lost in thought. He didn't know how the two had met, but it all felt like fate, because he hadn't opened Sophia's locket. But he seemed to have guessed something. He just didn't want to confirm it, because if his guess turned out to be true, then what those two had suffered in the Frank family, he couldn't even imagine it. But whether it was him or Meryl, they didn't have much time left. Rhodes's daughter and Meryl's son. What exactly happened between them? Everything will be revealed on the anniversary of their deaths tomorrow. However, at this moment, the two were chatting in the pavilion. Meryl mentioned casually that Carl had loved flowers since he was a child. To fulfill her son's wish, the Empress ordered Marquis Rhodes to create magic that would make flowers never wilt. In the end, Marquis Rhodes created a garden that bloomed in all 4 seasons within 2 years. But at that time, the Empress passed away, so Carl never went to the garden. Although Carl was young at the time, he had no expression on his face. He didn't even shed a single tear, as if he knew what the Empress's death meant. Afterwards, the former emperor died of illness, and the Empress and Crown Prince also passed away one after another. It was then that Sophia realized something was wrong. This was definitely not right. And why did Carl accept all of this so calmly? If this was all true, then perhaps it was not over yet. Afterwards, on the way back, Meryl took Sophia to a dress shop. After trying on clothes, Sophia received many compliments. Just as she was about to buy a mask for the banquet, a red-haired man appeared and said, "Miss, are you looking to buy a mask too?" Looking at the man whose looks were in no way inferior to Carl's, Sophia was practically drooling. The man wanted Sophia to help him pick out a mask. That way, every time he wore the mask, he would think of Sophia. Sophia found this man strange. But being good at cosplay, Sophia picked one from the selection. It had to be said, it was a really good fit. And the man also picked one out for Sophia as a gift in return. Suddenly, the man leaned in close, and his purpose for leaning in was actually to praise Sophia's brooch. Then he grimly told Sophia to be careful not to lose the brooch. Sophia felt a hint of coldness, but this person's appearance was truly that of a greasy and flirtatious man. Back at the palace, Sophia received a letter. It was left for Sophia by the Count, that is, her father. He warned Sophia not to get any unnecessary ideas. Sophia was merely their bait. Especially, she should not get in Luna's way. Her very existence was an obstacle for Luna. Reading the letter, Sophia trembled with anger. How could a father say such vicious things to his child? At night, Sophia went to Carl's room. She found that Carl had been drinking again, and he had drunk several bottles. Just as Sophia was about to scold him for drinking without her permission, Carl seemed to have become a different person. He said bluntly, "How dare someone like you presume to order the emperor?" This Carl felt completely unfamiliar and very scary to Sophia. Carl reached out and grabbed Sophia's neck. The next second, he collapsed into Sophia's arms. No matter how Sophia called out, there was no response. However, not 2 minutes later, Carl woke up again and even asked Sophia why she was there. Here, and he didn't seem to know that he had been drinking. The next day, Sophia went to ask Rhodes if Carl had any other illnesses, like a disease that causes sudden memory loss. Rhodes was also surprised. He had been so well-behaved recently. and he deduced that this was a symptom of a personality change. And this seemed to be the first time she had heard this term since she transmigrated into the book. She had encountered this situation when she first arrived. It was just that she was too scared at the time to pay attention to anything else. Rhodes explained that Carl would sometimes become extremely violent, completely different from his usual self. Generally, as long as you don't anger him, it's fine. Sophia wondered if it could be a split personality, but Carl didn't know about this. Moreover, Rhodes said this matter must be kept absolutely secret, because if Carl ever found out, there was no telling what might happen. The royal family of the Marseilles Empire holds 2 grand celebrations each year. Additionally, because envoys and delegations from neighboring countries visit in February, a banquet comparable to a celebration is also held at this time. In the original story, this is when Luna received a confession from the warm-hearted second male lead. But Rhodes actually made Sophia an envoy's aide. Then he just dropped a line, "The envoy is someone Sophia knows well," and then shirked his responsibility and ran off. Suddenly receiving such a mission, Sophia was a bit lost. Just then, Carl suddenly appeared. He could see Sophia's uncertainty. He came specifically to adjust Sophia's appearance. He even deliberately placed Sophia's brooch in a more conspicuous spot. He wanted everyone to know that Sophia was his healer. Being stared at so intently by Carl, Sophia felt a little shy. The celebration was very lively. Sophia was currently standing right beside Carl. Just then, Bernie from Delphiora came over to greet Carl. At that moment, Sophia remembered, "Isn't this the playboy from the clothing store?" Claude responded with a smile. He was the envoy from Delphiora. At this, Carl's expression, who was standing to the side, suddenly darkened. He asked how the two of them knew each other. Claude then recounted how they had met at the clothing store. Then, quite tactlessly, he asked Carl for Sophia's name. Although Carl was very displeased, he still said Sophia's full name. Afterward, Carl said that was enough for today and prepared to leave the celebration. He also gestured for Sophia to follow him. After going outside, he even told Sophia to shut her mouth and just follow him obediently. Sophia was completely helpless against this willful and arbitrary emperor. That afternoon, on her way to change the flowers for Carl, Sophia ran into Claude again. He had come this time just to give Sophia some specialty chamomile tea. His homeland is the best production area for chamomile tea. This small bag costs a full 300 gold coins. Unfortunately, the quality of the recently produced chamomile tea has declined. Moreover, chamomile tea has calming and soothing properties. Perhaps it could help with insomnia. Sophia immediately thought that perhaps she could use this to build a business. Little did she know, their conversation was being watched by Carl from the side. Seeing the two of them chatting happily, he was very displeased. That evening, when Sophia came to work, Carl was standing at the door, startling her. Sophia thought Carl had switched personalities again. So when Carl cornered her against the wall, she was terrified. Carl didn't know why Sophia always had this expression when facing him. He then pulled Sophia up. He was going to give Sophia, who giggled foolishly in front of other men, a little punishment. And his punishment was for her to sit here and lull him to sleep. He also warned Sophia not to be like that in front of other men. It would annoy him. In the Western Fran territory of the Empire, a maid was about to help the blue-haired girl with her luggage. But the blue-haired girl slapped her hand away. Then, the girl waved her magic wand. The luggage floated in the air just like that. And this girl was Luna, who was also Sophia's sister. Her mother gave her returning daughter a warm welcome, for no other reason than that her daughter was first in her class at the Magic Academy. Count Fran had gone to the capital and hadn't returned yet. Luna then told her mother the purpose of her return. She wanted to attend the debutante ball. Upon hearing this news, her mother immediately arranged for a carriage to the capital to handle the matter. Watching her mother's departing figure, Luna's expression gradually turned cold and sinister. After returning to the residence, she actually sent all the maids away to rest. The maids were naturally very happy about it. She sent her mother and the maids away in order to enter the basement of this castle. In the basement, there was actually a cell, and this was where Sophia used to live. Luna was furious because her family had lied to her. If she graduated from the Magic Academy at the top of her class, they would release her sister. But it turned out they had sold her sister to the Imperial Palace since the day she enrolled, and the magic she had set before leaving had been overridden by her father's mages. She was determined to let her father know the consequences of touching her things. At this time, Sophia was strolling in the garden. She ran into Claude again, and it seemed he was about to leave. Claude explained that he hadn't planned to go back so soon either. It was because he had been warned by His Majesty. Karl had reminded him if it wasn't time to leave the palace and return to his country. But he didn't plan to return to his country. Although he couldn't attend a debutante ball, he could freely move through other balls. And every time he put on this mask, he would think of Sophia. Sophia was a little shocked, wondering what was wrong with this person. Watching Claude's departing figure, Sophia could only pray that the naive Luna would not be deceived by him. Because the Luna in Sophia's memory was a simple and righteous girl. And there was still 1 year left. Until the day of Karl and Luna's grand wedding. Until they got married, Luna never had a debutante ball. This meant that Luna would not be attending this debutante ball. It also meant that Sophia could relax and enjoy herself at the ball. Although their relationship seemed to have been very good in the past, she didn't want to see Luna. After all, she was inextricably linked to the original Sophia's death. However, the current direction of the story was completely different from the novel. One day, Sophia discovered she had received a pile of letters. Without exception, these letters were all invitations to balls from the young men of various families. Sophia didn't quite understand. She was just an illegitimate daughter with no power in her hands. Why would they send letters to her? That evening, Sophia was again preparing for work. However, today's Karl seemed like a different person. He pushed Sophia down onto the bed. It turned out he had seen Sophia with Claude. He questioned Sophia about why she didn't listen to him. He had clearly told her not to get close to Claude. He even asked Sophia if she had fallen for Claude, because he always heard Sophia intimately calling him Claude. Hearing this, Sophia couldn't help but laugh out loud. Actually, she was just afraid of Claude always calling her Miss Fran in that greasy tone. And to say she would like Claude, a guy who clearly loves to flirt around, was just too absurd. Compared to that kind of person, Sophia felt the tyrant in front of her was better. Seeing the atmosphere gradually becoming ambiguous, Sophia quickly changed the subject. She showed the letters she received to Karl because she didn't know how to deal with them. Karl sneered and said to send all the letters to his office. And his way of handling these letters was to have Rhodes burn them all. Sophia was still thanking Karl. If it weren't for Karl, these letters would have crushed her. But Sophia would never have guessed that Karl had burned them all without even looking. Just then, a knight suddenly delivered a gift box, saying it was from His Majesty for Sophia. He also told her to wear it to the Marseilles Hall tonight. Refusing would be a breach of contract. What surprised Sophia even more was that, and Rovi also came. They were here to help Sophia with her makeup. Since Sophia became a knight, she not only changed rooms, but also stopped eating at the previous dining hall. The three of them hadn't seen each other for a long time. After a brief reunion, Sophia noticed the two were being very polite to her. The friendly atmosphere from before was completely gone. The two had to explain that because Sophia was a specially appointed knight, they would be scolded if they acted too casually. Sophia couldn't do anything about it and could only pout to show her displeasure. But Sophia had always regarded the two of them as friends. But in fact, the two of them also liked Sophia very much and were happy that she considered them friends. Afterward, the great work was complete. Sophia couldn't quite believe it. Was the person in the mirror really her? Just like that, with the help of her good friends, Sophia walked into the ceremony. Strangely, everyone seemed to be looking at her, which put her under a lot of pressure. The young ladies from various noble families were also talking amongst themselves. How had they never seen such a beautiful lady in high society before? What was even more awkward was that Sophia ran into the people who had written her letters. They even started arguing, fighting for a chance to speak with Sophia, just as Sophia didn't know what to do. A tall figure shielded Sophia. It was Karl. He glared at the men and berated them. The men were instantly so scared their legs went weak, ready to kneel and beg for mercy. They quickly fled. Karl's appearance instantly gave Sophia a sense of security, and Karl was very satisfied with this expression on Sophia's face. He then led Sophia to take their seats. This scene captured the attention of the entire hall. Everyone was buzzing with discussion. Not only did she attend the ball wearing rubies, but His Majesty was also very protective of her. But Karl paid no mind to these discussions, and even seemed to be enjoying them. Seeing that Sophia's dress was a bit revealing, he draped his jacket over her. But he was the one who gave her this dress. Just then, Sophia saw a figure, an unexpected figure. Why was Luna here? Sophia was extremely flustered. Luna saw her sister and hugged her in front of everyone, repeatedly confirming that this person was indeed her sister. Carl decided to let them go somewhere quiet to talk. Carl realized this was the sister Sophia had mentioned. Sophia didn't deny it. Carl told them to take their time talking and that he would step aside for a moment. Sophia told her sister not to worry and explained to her that the man was the emperor of the empire. Luna held her sister's hand, asking if she knew she was coming to the ball. In the original novel, Luna didn't come to the ball. According to the novel's plot, she wasn't supposed to appear for at least another year. Luna revealed a sad expression. She learned that her sister was to become His Majesty's healer. I didn't even know that person sold you to the imperial palace. Sophia could only laugh awkwardly, realizing she was the one who had changed the course of the plot. Luna asked if she had begged His Majesty to attend because she wanted to see her. Luna thought her sister had realized she might attend the debutante ball, and so asked His Majesty to let her attend. But that wasn't what Sophia was thinking. She felt that Luna was acting very strange. Before Sophia could speak, Luna gave a sinister smile, thinking her sister couldn't live without her. Sophia felt it was a bit strange. The way she was acting now was not like a child at all. That night, Luna stuck close to Sophia while sleeping. The next day, Luna was even happier. Sophia was dragged by Luna and had to go to the Marseilles Hall. Sophia hadn't planned on attending for 2 days in a row. But Sophia also thought it wasn't bad to suddenly have a younger sister. Before she transmigrated, the female lead had no siblings, so she was all alone after her parents passed away. Sophia felt that compared to her life before transmigration, her life here seemed pretty good. Luna found her sister and asked what she was doing here all alone. Sophia said she felt more comfortable standing here. But Luna thought her sister was the same as always, that what's there to be afraid of when I'm here? After speaking, Luna handed Sophia a glass of red wine, telling her sister to try it. Sophia said she couldn't drink alcohol. But Luna told her, "Sister, you're His Majesty's knight. Can't you be a dark knight who blocks drinks for your little sister?" Under pressure, Sophia had no choice but to take the red wine. Suddenly, Carl appeared and snatched the red wine from her hand, telling her that her face turned red the last time she drank. After speaking, Carl downed the red wine in his hand in one gulp. Sophia was a little worried that chugging it like that might harm Carl. He thought it was just a glass of wine, nothing to worry about, just like how Sophia drank for Carl before. Sophia was touched by Carl. Luna suddenly put on a very worried expression. He suddenly glared at Luna, thinking, "It seems you don't know your sister very well either." Luna cried and apologized to her sister, saying she really didn't know her sister couldn't touch alcohol. Seeing this, Sophia hurriedly comforted her, and all of this was seen by Carl. The next evening, Luna found a handkerchief in a drawer and asked her sister why the handkerchief she had given her before was here. Only then did Sophia realize that the handkerchief was a gift from Luna, so she could only find an excuse to brush it off. Luna told her sister not to be reluctant to use it. Sophia took the handkerchief, saying she would use it well from now on. Sophia mentioned that there was only one bed and asked if it would be inconvenient to sleep at night, wanting Luna to go back to her own room to sleep. But Luna said the reason she came to the palace was to rescue her. Sophia was a little surprised by her words. Luna didn't expect her sister to react this way. She thought it was His Majesty who forced her to be a healer. This wasn't your own choice, was it? Sophia didn't understand what was wrong with her. She thought, how can my sister, who is so soft-hearted, possibly survive in the imperial palace? Luna said she genuinely wanted to save her. She apologized to Sophia for not being able to stop that person. Sophia knew that that person her sister was talking about was their father. For her sister, a non-adapter, the palace might be safe. There's no difference. It's still being locked up. But what's the difference between here and the basement at home? After all, it's still being locked up. Suddenly, Sophia's memories flooded her mind. That was a memory Sophia was unwilling to face. The room the female lead appeared in before was a memory of the original Sophia. Luna tried to persuade her that if she just escaped from here, she wouldn't have to live in a place like the basement anymore. For a moment, Sophia had the thought of wanting to escape. But the female lead was not Sophia. Although she possessed her memories, the female lead ultimately came to her senses. Sophia told Luna that she was grateful for her concern. She said she couldn't run away with her now. Becoming His Majesty's healer was her own choice, and she had already signed a formal contract with His Majesty. Luna was in disbelief. Sophia stated that until she fulfilled her duties, she had to stay. After comforting Luna, Sophia still had to go and lull His Majesty to sleep. She told her to go to sleep first and then left. Meanwhile, Sophia arrived at Carl's room. Carl first hugged her. Sophia hesitated, feeling that she was too close to him. Carl whispered in her ear, telling her, "Do you want to sleep together?" Sophia shyly shouted, "I don't want to sleep with a pervert." The next morning, Carl was practicing swordsmanship with his subordinates. As a genius swordsman, Carl surpassed the knight commander at the age of 17 to become the most powerful knight in the empire. But due to his taciturn, cold, and ruthless personality, even the royal guards were unwilling to get close to him. In addition, there were rumors that His Majesty had killed the Empress and the Crown Prince to ascend to the throne. But recently, it was heard that the cold Emperor seemed to have changed. Not only had his expression softened, but his tone was no longer icy. He would even smile. The three little ones were now completely smitten with Carl. Suddenly, a subordinate saw someone standing on the roof. They realized, "Isn't that Sophia's sister? How did she get up there?" Carl saw her jump from above. Seeing this, Carl thought that if her sister died, Sophia might kill herself too. At this moment, Sophia was looking for Luna everywhere. Sophia saw Carl in the distance, but then noticed Luna lying in Carl's arms. The two of them also noticed Sophia. Luna got up and hugged Sophia. She told her that she had accidentally missed her step and His Majesty had caught her. Seeing that she wasn't injured, Carl left first. But Sophia was still skeptical. That night, Sophia helped Carl fall asleep as usual. This time, Sophia saw bloodstains on Carl's arm. Sophia hadn't expected that he really had saved Luna. Sophia pulled him to sit on the sofa. She then lifted Carl's sleeve. This caught Carl a little off guard. Sophia told him to endure it for a moment so she could check his wound. Sophia saw that the wound was very deep and was about to call Marquis Rhodes to help Carl get treatment. Carl stopped her, thinking there was no need to cause a commotion over such a small injury. Carl told her his constitution was special and that it would heal soon. A simple bandage would be enough. Sophia saw that the only thing in her pocket was the handkerchief from Luna. But bandaging the wound was the priority. She decided to find a chance to explain to Luna later. But Sophia was still angry, thinking that if Carl had just told her, she wouldn't have misunderstood him. Sophia mischievously used a little force while bandaging it as a form of punishment for him. Just as Sophia was about to leave, Carl grabbed her and told her to wait and lull him to sleep first. Sophia was a little shy seeing him act cute. The next second, she told him to lie down on the bed first. Carl had no choice but to slowly climb into bed. At the banquet, Luna suddenly asked Sophia where the handkerchief she gave her went. Sophia recounted the story of His Majesty getting injured. Luna was somewhat furious. She couldn't believe her sister had used her handkerchief to bandage His Majesty. She thought her sister was so naive to believe His Majesty so easily. Sophia's memories flooded her mind again. That memory was of Sophia's father. In the memory, the father expressed that everything was for Luna's sake. Luna told her sister to hold on until she graduated from the magic school, and then she would help her sister leave. Robert always protected Luna. He was displeased simply because Sophia was a magic-compatible consort. So, as soon as Luna left home for the Magic Academy, their father sold Sophia to the Imperial Palace. The reason the female protagonist could transmigrate into Sophia's body was because she had already given up on everything. But Sophia didn't know. The person who pushed her into the abyss was none other than Luna. Back in the present, Luna was still whispering devilish words. She said His Majesty was not a good person and not to trust His Majesty. And she claimed that Sophia had told her His Majesty was definitely not a good person. Luna still thought she was the same useless older sister from before. Thinking her sister was the same as before, locked in the basement for too long, and thus probably didn't understand His Majesty well. Just as Luna was about to reveal how Her Majesty the Empress and His Highness the Crown Prince died, Sophia told her to stop talking. But Luna didn't know when to quit. She started twisting the facts, saying, "Back then in the garden, didn't you also see His Majesty about to do something improper to me?" Just as Luna was about to press on, Sophia's palm had already struck her face hard. Sophia told her, "Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? His Majesty injured his arm to save you. But what about you?" This made Luna a little flustered. Sophia laid out Luna's plan clearly. Sophia had seen through it all. Sophia emphasized again that His Majesty was not that kind of person. Even if no one else believed him, she would still believe him. Sophia believed that the reason Luna acted so pitiful was all for her own sake. Sophia stated, "I don't want to be your pitiful sister anymore, nor am I your possession." Sophia hoped that in the future, Luna would not meddle in her affairs. When Sophia turned around, she saw Carl. In front of everyone, Carl took her hand and led her away from the banquet. Sophia wanted to know how much His Majesty had heard. Carl didn't hide it and said everything. Sophia was very angry, not expecting she would say such things. Just as Sophia was feeling indignant on Carl's behalf, Carl hugged her tightly, very grateful for everything Sophia had done. Then he gently kissed her forehead. In the morning, Sophia woke Carl up and told him to go outside first. Sophia needed to clean. Carl didn't expect to be kicked out so early in the morning. But then Luna bumped into Carl. This scene happened to be seen by Sophia. Sophia, however, had a look of jealousy on her face. Luna aggressively warned Carl, telling him that her sister belonged to her alone. She advised Carl not to have any foolish fantasies. But Carl just sneered, asking if she had gotten the person's consent. And he told Luna, "Your sister doesn't want to escape from here with you. Sophia is the Emperor's knight. She is Carl's healer." Carl warned her if she made Sophia suffer next time, Carl would not let it go. That evening, Carl noticed Sophia was distracted and wanted to hear her out. Sophia tactfully mentioned seeing him with Luna in the morning and that they were very close. After hearing this, Carl burst out laughing. Carl explained that, just like last time, he had only steadied her. Carl said his gynophobia hadn't been cured yet. If it had been any other woman, he would have left long ago. Without another word, Carl told Sophia to hurry up and lull him to sleep. Sophia's mood instantly improved as well. A week after the debutante ball, Luna packed her luggage, ready to leave. She asked if her sister wasn't going to see her off. Sophia couldn't figure out what she was up to. After all, Luna was a mage who could adjust her mood and expression at will. Luna said it was fine if she didn't come. Sophia didn't understand what that expression on Luna's face meant. Luna was afraid that if things went on like this, she would be killed by someone. In the end, Sophia still agreed to see her off. Luna took out a letter, wanting her sister to pass it to His Majesty, wanting to apologize to His Majesty. Just as Luna was saying goodbye, a person who made Sophia feel afraid got out of the carriage. It was a fear that came from Sophia's very soul. When Sophia was very young, her father beat her every day. This caused her to suffer severe trauma in her childhood. Her father found Sophia an eyesore whenever he saw her. He didn't want to see her appear in front of Luna. Sophia apologized subconsciously. Her father thought she actually dared to argue back. Sophia believed that people don't always stay the same. Her father didn't expect she had learned to talk back. But this time, he had important business and didn't want to waste time on her. So he pulled Luna along, preparing to leave. Sophia told her father, "If you truly love Luna, then stop using her as a decorative item." Luna seemed to feel a slight stir in her heart. Luna asked her father what he was here for this time. "Are you here to see that person?" Her father was puzzled as to where Luna had heard that. Luna told her father that she was also a mage of the House of Veron. Her goal was to surpass her father. For this reason, Luna also wanted to meet that person. After the debutante ball ended, the Imperial Palace returned to its usual tranquility. Carl grew tired of this method of being lulled to sleep. He wanted to change it, but Sophia took out the contract, stating that only she could amend it. Carl got up. He hoped that from now on, Sophia would do as he said. Then he took off his clothes. Sophia was a little flustered. Carl took her hand and told her not to speak, just to follow him. It turned out Carl just wanted to change his clothes and go for a walk. Sophia had thought she was in for a treat. This was also the first time Sophia had taken a walk with a man. Carl recounted that he loved coming here when he was a child. Because Carl was small, he couldn't see the lilacs. So his mother, despite her illness, would pick him up just so he could admire them up close. Carl was just happy to be able to walk with his mother. Having her hold him was enough. His mother thought Carl liked lilacs, so she had Marquis Rose make the garden stay forever in the season of blooming flowers. After Carl's mother passed away, he never came here again, because those childhood memories were too vivid and he didn't want to touch them. Sophia remarked that Carl had changed a lot. Meanwhile, Marquis Rose was investigating a certain matter under the Emperor's orders. This time, Marquis Rose discovered a clue they had left behind. They had always been meticulous in their work, but this time they left a clue. Marquis Rose thought it was a trap, but he also felt that they had never once gotten close. The capital could also be their last stronghold. The place with the greatest concentration of power is where the imperial palace is located. Marquis Rose believed this must be their final stronghold. Marseille was their planned ideal location for the final battle. Marquis Rose decided to speed things up. That night, Carl moved closer to Sophia. That if I can feel another person's body heat, it's easier to fall asleep. Sophia thought, how could he say such bold words? Carl thought she must be flustered. Sophia tried to act like she wasn't flustered, but in reality, her heart was already pounding like a frightened deer. Then, Carl told her to lie down next to him, threatening her with an imperial command. Sophia had no choice but to lie down under Carl's coercion and enticement. Carl took Sophia's hand, telling her that this way, she wouldn't have to strain her voice. Carl got up and asked her if he was handsome. Sophia thought he was quite handsome. Carl was thrilled to hear Sophia praise him. Sophia told him not to get so close. Her heart couldn't take it. Seeing this cute side of her, Carl couldn't help but laugh out loud. Sophia told Carl not to misunderstand. Her heart wasn't racing because she liked him. Carl wanted to know what the reason was then. Sophia said it was because Carl was handsome and just her type. Carl gave her a warm smile. Meanwhile, Luna was very surprised by how much her sister had changed. Before, her sister would tremble at the sound of their father's voice. She never expected her to say such things. Soon, they arrived at their destination. Her father took out a gem and had Luna place her magic staff on it. A magic circle began to activate. They seemed to have entered another place. They slowly pushed open the door. At this moment, a man was standing there. Her father had something to report to the man, but the man said he couldn't bring his daughter in. So Luna had to obey her father's command and go outside first. Although Luna didn't know what they were plotting, the place she had come to also made Luna wonder what her father and the others were planning. Just as Luna was about to use her magic to investigate, the man told her that she couldn't use magic freely here. Seeing this, Luna realized this person must be the Lord her father had mentioned. She hurriedly knelt down to admit her mistake. The man told her not to be like that, as it felt like he was bullying a child. Luna didn't think of herself as a child, and she introduced herself to the man as Luna de Veron. Only then did the man realize she was Veron's daughter. The man told her it would be best not to get involved in such dangerous matters. Luna told the man she had already steeled her resolve. The man lifted her hand. "Do you not mind if these fair hands are stained red?" Luna knew what the man meant. That as a mage, one must never use magic to harm people. This was an absolute taboo for mages. The man introduced himself, saying to just call him Hewitt. However, the man stressed that she could only call him that when they were alone. Marquis Rose told Carl that while investigating the Lizong region, he had discovered one of their strongholds. He found an important clue there. Carl was somewhat shocked to see that he had already infiltrated their stronghold. Marquis Rose handed Carl a piece of paper. According to the information on it, all of them were heading to the capital. We must investigate clearly as soon as possible. Only by knowing their target can we prepare a countermeasure. Marquis Rose stated that the magic tool would be completed soon, and then they could officially begin their operation. While Sophia was walking at night, she heard a noise up ahead. Sophia discovered that the person in front of her was actually Carl. But Sophia couldn't help but secretly watch Carl. However, Carl still discovered her. Sophia was startled and shrank back. Just as Carl was approaching step by step, Sophia told him to keep up the good work and then fled in a panic. The usually cold Carl was amused by her actions. Sophia lay in bed with mixed feelings. If she saw Carl now, it would be incredibly awkward. But Sophia still couldn't escape her fate of having to wake Carl up. Seeing that Carl was already awake, Sophia scurried away. Carl couldn't say much, but this time they ran into each other in the kitchen. Sophia didn't understand why he had come to the kitchen. Carl said he came to get some red wine. Hearing he came for red wine, Sophia asked if he wanted a drink. Carl argued that he didn't want to drink. He just heard that the kitchen had recently gotten some good red wine and wanted to take a look. The head chef said that drinking a little red wine is good for one's health. Sophia told the head chef not to serve any red wine or similar things later. There was nothing Carl could do, as he couldn't win against her. He decided to invite her to the garden for a while. Suddenly, Sophia accidentally tripped on the way. Carl caught her in time, preventing Sophia from getting hurt. And he saw a pink flower petal on her face, so he told her she was beautiful. Sophia was extremely shy and fled in a panic again. But Carl had a look of enjoyment on his face. After that day, Sophia deliberately avoided Carl. Because of this, Carl asked her why she kept avoiding him. Sophia didn't say anything. Carl told her that if she didn't want to get close, she didn't have to sit on the bed. A few days passed like this. Then one day, Sophia found that Carl was gone. Suddenly, Sophia heard a noise coming from inside the wardrobe. As Sophia was about to open the wardrobe, suddenly, Sophia showed a look of terror. It was because Carl emerged from the wardrobe. Sophia wanted to know what was going on. Was there a secret passage in the wardrobe? Carl told her he would explain later after she asked. Suddenly, Sophia noticed a note on the floor. As Sophia picked it up and was about to ask what it was, Carl snatched it away and told her not to worry about it for now. First, lull him to sleep. As Carl took off his clothes, Sophia noticed the wound on his arm. Sophia worriedly questioned him. What happened? How did you get hurt? Carl subconsciously dodged, claiming it was nothing. Sophia wasn't going to be brushed off by Carl's few words. Carl explained that he just got hurt accidentally while walking in the garden. Sophia didn't believe him, thinking it was impossible to get a wound like that from just a fall. Seeing that he couldn't keep up the lie, Carl began to use his honor as the emperor, questioning her for doubting his words. Sophia said she would just assume it was from a fall. But why did you come in through the secret passage? Carl subconsciously turned his head away. He told her he just wanted a change of scenery. That's why he did it. Seeing him constantly avoiding the topic, Sophia told him she just wanted to know what happened. Was it dangerous? Carl told her sternly, "It's my business. It has nothing to do with you." Sophia didn't dare to press further, just tactfully expressed that, as his healer, she should at least treat the wound. But Carl claimed he was very tired and told Sophia she could go back for today. And he made her promise to keep this matter a secret. As Sophia was leaving, she was still very worried. After she left, he thought about whether he had been too harsh, but he couldn't get Sophia involved. Just as Carl lay down to sleep, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Do you really want to rest that badly? Carl told it to get lost, but the voice in Carl's mind kept tempting him. At this time, Sophia was still in bed, worrying about Carl's condition. Suddenly, a maid told her, "His Majesty is looking for you." Sophia didn't understand what Carl wanted from her. Carl thought she was too slow. Sophia wanted to take the opportunity to apologize to him. Carl grabbed her and told her to lull him to sleep first. Then he threw Sophia onto the bed. Like a different person, Carl asked her, "I'm very curious. Can Sophia really make me fall asleep?" Sophia remembered what the old man had said. Carl had a dual personality. Sophia asked him, "You're not Carl, are you?" Carl was shocked by Sophia's words. Suddenly, Carl burst out laughing, "That you're really sharp. That's why I wanted to kill you. It's a pity the guy suddenly appeared, so I didn't succeed." Sophia thought, so that's why he suddenly froze that day. The other personality of Carl told her to watch her words, since this body was still the emperor's. Sophia was speechless. She never thought that dual personalities, something that only appeared in movies and novels, could exist here. Sophia knew to bow and ask for his forgiveness. Carl asked her, "You want to know who I am, right?" Carl told her that from a psychological perspective, he was his older brother, but I was born later, so I guess I'm his younger brother. He introduced himself as Bradley. But Bradley said he really wanted to kill that coward Carl. But if I kill Carl, I'll disappear too. Sophia asked him if he knew about Carl having enemies. Bradley thought he's royalty. It's normal to have enemies. Sophia asked him, "You don't even know about that." Bradley replied coldly, "Do I need to know that kind of thing?" He explained, "I'm just responsible for doing what I should do. For example, killing a troublesome woman like you. Whatever the method, as long as it can reduce this guy's stress, it's fine." Sophia thought he was truly willful and reckless. Carl told her, "The biggest problem is you." Sophia didn't understand what was wrong with her. Bradley expressed his dissatisfaction with Sophia. Because of her existence, his chances to appear were now few and far between. Sophia stated she was only responsible for lulling His Majesty to sleep. Bradley told her he certainly wouldn't kill her now. In fact, rather than wanting to kill Sophia, Bradley was quite interested in her. Carl suddenly fell backward. Looking at the sleeping him, Sophia wondered if Carl was about to wake up. Suddenly, Carl seemed to be in great pain. Sophia was very worried. Carl seemed to be having a nightmare, being chased by something. Behind that door was Sophia, lying in a pool of blood. In reality, Sophia was calling out Carl's name over and over. Suddenly, a tear appeared in the corner of Carl's eye, and he mumbled, "Don't go, Sophia." Just then, Carl suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a panicked and tearful Sophia. Carl pulled Sophia into his arms. He told her to stay still just like that. They stayed like that until morning. Carl saw Sophia sleeping. She was really cute. When Sophia woke up, she found that Carl was already gone. He had only left a note telling her to go back to her room and rest when she woke up. At that time, Sophia had no idea that things would later become so complicated. Afterwards, Carl found Sophia, wanting to reward her for her duties as his therapist. Rhodes suddenly used magic. The bound Sophia didn't understand what was happening. Carl told her she had worked hard during this time and could rest now. Sophia still wanted to say something. Carl told her she no longer needed to lull him to sleep and planned to give her a long vacation to live freely outside the palace. He urged her to behave and not cause trouble after leaving the palace. Marquis Rhodes told her to listen to Carl's advice. But what Sophia didn't understand was why she was being tied up. Rhodes told her he would explain later. Carl didn't seem to want to do it either. But to protect Sophia, he had to. 2 hours later, Rhodes told Carl that she had been sent away, and no one was following. But Sophia kept her head down, seeming very unhappy. Carl thought this was a good thing. Only this way would she not meddle in other people's business. Just stay put obediently, right? In Carl's eyes, Sophia was a reckless person, and you never knew what she would do next. At this moment, Rhodes took out the magic item Carl had given him earlier. Carl told him not to be in a hurry to use it until they knew the specific meeting point. Then Rhodes told him to wear this mask at that time. Rhodes told Carl that as long as he wore this mask, even people who knew him wouldn't be able to recognize his identity. It also has a function similar to hypnosis, but it has no effect on people with powerful magic, so you must act carefully. Carl and the others seemed to have made ample preparations. At this moment, Sophia was furious about Carl's recent actions. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Before leaving, Rhodes had warned Sophia, absolutely do not open the door for just anyone. Only open it when you've confirmed it's someone you know. This made Sophia feel a little scared. Sophia calmed down. She thought Carl must have encountered some trouble to have sent her here. Suddenly, the person knocking shouted that she was Luna. This confused Sophia even more. How did Luna know? Sophia thought she would find out by checking. It turned out to really be Luna. Sophia pulled her inside. She wanted to know how she got here. Luna explained that His Majesty the Emperor had sent her. His Majesty knows that her sister is compatible with the magic consort and thought it would be safer for her to be with Luna. Sophia believed she was telling the truth. Did that mean the excuse of a long vacation and being tied up with ropes and sent out of the palace were really for her own good? Luna seemed to understand that Sophia didn't trust her right now. She thought that before. She always believed only she, by becoming a magician, could save her sister. For this reason, Luna had made protecting Sophia her mission. She wanted to beg her sister for forgiveness. Sophia said she would forgive her, but she hoped Luna would listen to her from now on. Luna seemed a bit troubled. Sophia asked if that was so difficult. Even so, please try to understand. After all, I'm furious right now. At that moment, in Noble's banquet, he was still thinking about Sophia coming to the banquet, wondering if she would be dressed beautifully. Suddenly, a scream made Carl alert. It turned out someone was causing a disturbance and had been caught by the guards. The man suddenly punched a guard and then prepared to flee. At this moment, Carl vaulted over the railing to pursue the man. Suddenly, a red-haired man below caught Carl's attention. Carl tapped him on the shoulder from behind. The red-haired man seemed to recognize him as the Emperor, but Carl couldn't reveal his identity yet. The red-haired man asked him why the Emperor would appear here. At this point, the white-haired man appeared again. Seeing this, Carl gave chase again. Suddenly, a voice came from behind Carl, telling him to get out of the way. A rope successfully bound the man. It turned out to be the red-haired man's magic. The man laughed, saying so His Majesty's target wasn't him. Suddenly, Carl remembered someone from his childhood. Carl had even lost to him because of it. The red-haired man noticed the smell of alcohol on him. He thought the man got drunk, caused a scene, and then tried to run away. The Emperor considered it and found that it seemed to be the case. Seeing that the man hadn't meant any harm, the red-haired man didn't press the matter. Carl told him he didn't expect him to be a magician. The red-haired man used magic to conjure a glass of red wine. Carl praised him, saying he had worked hard today. The red-haired man showed a strange smile. He said it was a small matter. It was his honor to be able to help His Majesty. Carl was still a bit wary of him. Luna exclaimed, "There's actually a wine that glows with a rainbow luster." It was a note Sophia had seen Carl drop before. The red wine contained a rainbow-colored wine. Carl had hurriedly taken the note away. That's why Sophia was asking Luna these questions. But Luna remembered hearing something about it before. That liquid is called iris. It's named after the goddess of the rainbow. Because it emits a rainbow-like glow when shaken, it was given this name. It's said to be circulated at the nobles' masquerade ball held in the capital. Sophia guessed, could Carl be attending the nobles' ball? Luna also said that if you drink it, all fatigue will disappear as if by miracle. Some even say iris is a panacea that can cure all ills. Sophia didn't expect such a medicine to exist in this world, but Sophia remembered that this was never mentioned in the novel. Luna wanted to know why her sister was asking about this. Sophia said she just happened to hear about it, and it felt a bit ominous. If this thing is harmful to His Majesty, she needs to find out. After all, she's a therapist. Luna said that if her sister meddled, it could be dangerous. Sophia thought it didn't matter, even if there was danger. Luna wanted to know what her sister planned to do. Sophia wanted to go to the banquet herself, so she hoped Luna could help her. Hearing that she could help her sister, Luna happily agreed. The two of them successfully snuck into the noble's ball. Luna used the excuse of going to the restroom and asked her sister to wait. Just then, Sophia saw a familiar figure. It was Carl. He was really at the ball, but Sophia didn't plan to meet him here. Suddenly, many nobles were attracted by Sophia's beauty and wanted to invite her to dance. Sophia said she didn't want to dance. While running, she bumped into Carl. Carl told her that her mask would fall off if she ran like that. So he invited Sophia to a dance. How could Sophia resist? She agreed to Carl's invitation. Just like that, Carl and Sophia danced gracefully among the crowd. Sophia discovered that dancing was actually so much fun. But in Carl's eyes, Sophia was so happy dancing with a stranger. Carl told her, "Don't," in front of other men. Smile so happily. Sophia realized she had been discovered. Carl told her he would spare her since she came to the ball with her sister. Carl warned her it would be best not to attend any balls around here. When Luna saw her sister and Carl together, dancing happily, she finally understood why her sister had taken a risk. Not only that, Luna also seemed to understand why the Emperor had sent Sophia to the villa. Back at the palace, Carl learned that Rhodes hadn't found their base. From this, he deduced they had used a magic item to move. Carl told him to take a few trustworthy people and investigate the suspicious locations one by one. Carl asked him again if he had seen anyone who had drunk Iris. Rhodes got very excited, asking Carl if he had found Iris. Carl shook his head, saying he hadn't seen Iris, just that someone's condition was very strange. Rhodes said that if that person had really drunk Iris, there would definitely be rumors. Carl thought that what Rhodes said was right. That thing makes people lose their minds, so the commotion would indeed be huge. Carl took out the mask. He asked Rhodes if the mask's power had weakened, as two people had already seen through it. Rhodes examined it carefully and found that there was no problem with the mask. It was just that Carl's features were too outstanding. At this time, Duke Flang told Ansius not to worry. Ansius thought, if he couldn't even spread a rumor, how could he be worthy of the name White Killer? Ansius sneered, saying it wasn't the kind of title he had earned. Until the time of the second emperor, the Flang family, the royal family's exclusive assassins, were still very famous. But ever since the third emperor ascended the throne, the royal family cut off all contact with the Flang family. It said they originally wanted revenge, but they failed. But the record from that time were all destroyed. So the real reason for the failure is impossible to investigate. Once a magician's hands are stained with blood, they are forever expelled from the world of magicians. But compared to this empty fame, Rabel wanted more to reclaim his past honor. For this, he would sacrifice everything. This is why he became an owl. For this reason, Carl must today find a clue about the owls. Carl didn't know their exact name. It turned out the reason Carl was looking for the owls was because a strange owl symbol was left at the place where his brother died. Just as Carl was thinking, a hand suddenly appeared and poked his face.